Hello, and this is Walkie-Talkie number 7. And it's actually the same day as the previous Walkie-Talkie. I've been doing that before to go on to record the second one when I feel that I have a lot to say and I'm not done yet. One of the main challenges in these walkie-talkies is to stop after 10 minutes, and I'm not really succeeding. So in any case, I wanted to continue about what I was talking about in the last walkie-talkie. So I'm still in the vicinity of this village on a different road now in Somogy province in Hungary. It's a beautiful sunset almost. Sun is going down early. Actually tonight we'll have the change of hour. We'll go from summer daylight time to winter time. So I get to sleep 1 more hour. Yay. But I was talking about a number of things, actually a lot of things. Alfred North Whitehead, for one, the great philosopher of the 20th century, father of process philosophy, who was, so to speak, in my team in saying that there are no such things as separate things and that everything consists of relationships rather than separate existing things. And then, of course, his theories were very much dovetailing at the time in the beginning of the 20th century with the developments in quantum physics, for example, but also in biology. Quantum physics. Well, should I get into that? Just a little bit. Because that's where logic begins to break down and things get really weird. I think it's not exaggerated to say that all the fathers of quantum physics became process philosophers, I think, because of their work. They even became mystics, you could say, but I won't get into that either now. That's for another time. So, physics. Alfred North Whitehead had an influence or a relationship to that field, but also to metaphysics, which is basically the thinking about the basis of reality other than physics, other than the physical world. Metaphysics. So, speaking of physics and quantum physics, this other example of a map and a simple diagram came to mind. In the previous walkie-talkie, I also talked about how people who start to draw faces have this. Oh, there's a herd of deer just crossing the trail here. Oh, wonderful! Big herd of deer, but they're disappeared into the woods already. Ah, great! I wish you could have seen that. We've seen that often in these parts. So my talk of process philosophy has scared them off, I think. I was talking last time about people who start to draw faces, portraits, tend to fall back on very simplified diagrams and draw those that are in their heads rather than what they can see ahead of them. And so it's like this in almost all domains of cognition and observation. We're just filled up with these simple diagrams and we project them onto everything. Like when I speak of the word atom, physics, all of us have had exposure to these drawings that have like a couple of balls in the center that represent the neutrons and the positrons, and then the little balls circling around which represent the electrons, sometimes with even like lines that represent the orbit. So that looks like little constellations like solar systems with little balls circling around the center. And that representation of an atom has about as much to do with the reality of an atom as a stick figure drawing has to do with a living human being. When you get into the close-up look of an atom, there's no such thing as little balls. There's no such thing as chunks of something that you could grasp if you had fingers small enough. There's like only states of a field. because that's what an electron basically is a particular state of a field, and so is a neutron, and they can appear and disappear. They can just vanish and appear somewhere else. They can exist in two places at the same time, electrons. It's been shown they can travel backwards in time. So they're more like ghosts, you might say. Nevertheless, they behave in predictable and orderly fashion when bound in an atom. Bound, I don't know if that word is correct, but and luckily for us, because otherwise there wouldn't be any stable matter if these patterns weren't stable. But an atom consists of fluctuating states of a field that are in relationship to each other, and that cannot be just seen in isolation from everything around the atom. The word atom was derived from the Greek word atomos, which meant uncuttable, that which could not be cut further, which of course turned out to be not true. We've been cutting atoms like there's no tomorrow, sometimes with horrible consequences. And so now we know that it seems like whenever we keep cutting, we'll just hit smaller things, states of a field, like subdivisions of the field. First we had neutrons, positons, electrons, then we started splitting those. We had mesons, bosons, quarks. So it seems there is no end to the minuteness to which we can go, because our instruments become sharper, so to speak. Anyway, I digress. I don't want to talk too much about that now, but I just wanted to say that this diagram of an atom very much still colors the way we think about atoms. We don't tend to think of atoms like sort of fuzzy clouds of potential and the state of a unified field that has no real tangible existence, however which way you look at it. Hans-Peter Dürr, the German physicist, said that everything we regard as real consists of things that cannot be regarded as real. And they cannot even be regarded as things. So the simplicity of this atom diagram is kind of symptomatic for everything we diagrammatize. I don't know if that's a word, but I just came up with it. To diagrammatize something, to reduce something to a simple drawing. Like I said in the one of the walkie-talkies in which I described why I stopped painting, I talked about how I saw the diagrams my kids were being taught in school, the maps, the diagrams. Diagrams are forms of maps. And I realized that it was still the same as in my days, and I realized that we teach our children and ourselves to view the world through a lens that is so limiting that just a minute fraction of the world comes through, really. If I think of the biology diagrams children are being taught in school, with neat little lines around the stem of the tree, and then you have the canopy, and then you have everything will be so linear and simple, and then you'll have the little term or word next to it with a line to the part of the diagram that is being labeled. Labeling is another thing that's really important in this whole process. So the simplicity of these diagrams limits our perception of the world and our interpretation of what it is to be alive, really. I think it goes that far, I think. And Alfred North Whitehead would agree with me, I think, if he was walking here beside me, because he himself emphasized the importance of our coming to see ourselves as an integral part of a continuous field of relationships. And that idea, as I said before, had a big influence on the development of ecological thinking. Just past an empty house here. I think it used to be a hunting lodge or something. I wish I could see some more deer. So, the simplicity of the diagram. And then I referred to earlier to my students who were drawing these really simple diagrams of eyes instead of what they were really seeing. And I couldn't help but think after a while that like 70% of my work as a teacher was actually unlearning. Like to wean people off of their preconceived ideas of the world and of what they were seeing and of what things look like, so that they could finally begin to see, like see. And for some people that was a huge deal and with far-reaching consequences. And for some people it was causing a lot of resistance or like anxiety even. But once you start really looking at the world, there's no turning back. And then you see how much our diagrams, our maps, our representations are limiting our perception of the living world and of ourselves. So I said that about 70% of my work as a teacher consisted of unlearning, in my opinion. And I think with the Biosphere project it may be similar. Like I would like to try to wean you off of some of your certainties and preconceived ideas about what the world is. You may not like that process sometimes, because it can be uncomfortable to leave behind a map you're comfortable with. Like, you know, if you're walking through a forest and you're navigating with an app and suddenly your battery is dead and you have no more app, and then, well, you have to find your way another way. And so it is uncomfortable sometimes not to know and to let go of the maps and interpretations of the world that were familiar. But I think we really need to do that in order to get different perspectives, to find a way forward through all these ecological crises we're facing. Because I think, like Donella Meadows said repeatedly, the author of Limits to Growth, that maybe our worldview, our paradigm is the place where we need to act with the most far-reaching possible consequences. But I'll get back to that also in another walkie-talkie. So I would like to take you on this journey through all these walks and in the blog and in my future writings and talks into maybe invite you to step back a little from the things you thought you knew about the world, like I have had to do, and be open to some ideas that may seem very unusual at times, or even crazy. Apparently, people who went to the lectures of Alfred North Whitehead were sometimes warned that attending these lectures might lead them away from consensus reality. Yeah, well, I think I would like to do that as well, to lead you away from consensus reality. But not in a gratuitous way or for the fun of it, because I think that is really an important work that all of us can do to change our way of thinking, to change the maps we're using, because that might enable us to see very differently and see much more what the world really is and what we really are. And that, I think, might be a huge step forward in this whole process we're going through with all these ecological crises and systemic crises and societal crises and which some call the meta crisis or the poly crisis, which seems so overwhelming sometimes. Well, I will leave it at that for now. It's really a beautiful evening, and I'm gonna walk home, and I will see you again in the next walkie-talkie. Thank you for listening and walking along with me. I really enjoy doing this. If you enjoy it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below this video. Apparently that really helps with reaching a wider audience, which I would like to do, of course. See you next time. Thank you. Namaste.